Welcome back. We are glad you are still keeping us company here on Good Morning Kenya. And as always, in case you are just joining us, karibu tena sana. I am Jain Wambui. Our communication platforms remain open. The hashtag is Good Morning Kenya on Twitter. Our official station handle is at KBC Channel 1. My handle is Jain Wambui. We are using at KBC Channel 1 on Facebook and Twitter as well. Now we want to get started with our first segment, and that is Women at the Forefront, as we do it every single Wednesday, all about women, all about breaking that glass ceiling that society put there for whatever reason, and encouraging all the young girls out there. You know what? There have been women that have gone ahead of us and are doing fantastic things. And today we have with us Grace Wanene, who is the founder and team lead at Drawing Dreams Initiative. Good morning, Grace.
Good morning, Jane.
How are you? I'm good. How are you?
I'm fantastic.
Thank you so much for making time to be with us today. How can guys find you on the socials?
So my Facebook is Grace Wanene. My Instagram is Wanene_Grace. My Twitter is Wanene_Grace. And for the Drawing Dreams Initiative, they're all Drawing Dreams Initiative, apart from Twitter, which is DD Initiative.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So if you have any questions you want to direct to her personally, or you just want to comment, or you're seeking clarification about what she does, feel free to use at Grace Wanene or at Drawing Dreams Initiative. So before we get to Drawing Dreams Initiative, of course we have to start with you. Since 2016, when you were Miss Earth Kenya,
Yes.
it's 2021. How has it been, leaving the glorious platform that is pageantry?
Yeah. So my pageant journey actually began in 2013.
Yes.
I was 19 at that time, and that was the Miss Tourism pageant, which I self-taught myself through YouTube. So from
Ulijifundisha kumodel?
nilikuwa tu na Google stories of pageants and then getting notes, because pageantry is not the same as fashion.
Yes.
Fashion, like they're all like different dimensions, but pageant it takes a lot more, because you have to learn how to be graceful, how to speak, how to walk. So that all takes like a whole course. So I did that through YouTube, and when we did the auditions, I made it through to the finals. So from there, it had been a journey of getting appointed to represent Laikipia at Miss World, and then Miss Earth came in.
Man, how was that for you? I mean, that is not something that we just take lightly, How was that whole experience and getting to actually carry the title?
It was a dream come true, because my dream for the pageant world was to get to the international stage, to experience it, then come home and nurture other young girls who want to get into the pageant world.
Yes.
And that is what has been happening since then. Since I got from the pageant industry, I've been coaching models who are getting to pageantry, and we recently did the Miss Earth Kenya 2021 pageant, where I was a judge. So it's all coming in full circle, and also Talanta Mtaani by Sasini.
Yes.
Yeah, and that is what I really wanted to do, and I'm hoping to grow in this sector and even go to the global level as a judge or even a coach.
Look at you doing phenomenal things. Now that brings us to Drawing Dreams Initiative, which is something that I believe was born during this space after you have left the global stage and now in the local space. What was the idea or the space that you were in when Drawing Dreams came to mind?
So Drawing Dreams is, I like saying, it's a hobby that has transitioned into a functioning organization.
Yeah.
Because we started as siblings and friends who had a culture of giving back to the community. We had extra clothes, we could collect them and donate. And it got to a point where we realized what we're doing is not so little. Like we think, ile tu mnadhani mnaenda tu kupeana nguo, and then now getting to talk to these girls who we engage with, and also boys. So the first step was at St. Martin's in Nyahururu, where there was a center where rescued girls had been let's say it's like a protection center. It's like a boarding
safe
school.
house.
Exactly.
Okay.
So we asked for donations for books and stuff to keep them busy, and also sanitary towels. And from that is when we realized we really have to structure this whatever we are doing. It was not even Drawing Dreams at that time. But it's continued getting deeper in our hearts.
Yes.
And then we also continued getting platforms to learn more about what we are doing. For example, getting courses on menstrual health. Another person goes for a reproductive health course. Then in 2015, I happened to co-write a book, a kid's book by the name Let's Go Wild. So when we were going to the schools now in Laikipia North to teach the kids about human-wildlife coexistence, then issues started arising. Like a girl would follow you and ask for sanitary towels. A boy would follow a fellow, guy from the team and ask a question about their welfare. And you're like, okay, we are doing this conservation book, but what about the welfare of these kids who we are coming to talk to? It's 2 p.m. They've not had anything to eat since morning. Their welfare is in total mess. So you come to a school, it's totally silent, and you think it's because but it's because they don't even have the energy. So as we kept going with the kids' book education, we kept on reaching to friends and potential partners on how they would come on board to help us take care of the welfare of these kids. And at that time it was only 2 schools, Olgirkir and Retiti Primary in Laikipia North, and those are the schools that we began with when Jain Dreams came to life. So after coming from the Philippines in 2016, it was actually a time like now. There was a whole homecoming in Nanyuki town. The youth, they had arranged a homecoming for me, a total surprise, and my siblings and the friends had printed out staff banners by the name Dream Dreams Initiative, and I've never seen anything more affirming than that. Like they had created a whole launch for the community-based organization. So Dream Dreams Initiative is a youth-led organization that strives to ensure that every adolescent girl and boy acquires timely menstrual health information and products, and at that time realize their fullest potential.
Now, you've mentioned it's a youth-led initiative. Was this something that you guys were very intentional, looking at the people you want to work with and who are like-minded, or is just something that you came to realize much later, okay, we are all within the same age group, like-minded, and that in itself is an impact in itself?
You have to be intentional because, even though you form a chama, there are people you might not your energies might not be in sync. And especially with these groups, like the first stage, things will not work out. The second, the third, and it reaches to a point, those who are persistent enough will stay in the process, because it's not as easy as the words sound.
Easier said than done.
Because sometimes there are absolutely no funds, especially in the initial stages, and maybe some people will think maybe you got something and not sharing with the rest, like there will just be a mismatch, and automatically they will just pull out. So by grace, like you just get a sieve of the right people who you can work with and who can make the dream come true.
Awesome.
Because it's a step-by-step every day, and you cannot go to like the third step when you've not taken the first step with the right people.
And that now comes to the fact that you mentioned you look at both boys and girls, because we find most initiatives focus on one gender because of this and this reasons that are specific to this particular gender that they're focusing on. And I'd love to start with some of the reasons that you've just mentioned there, and let's start with menstrual hygiene management. You've mentioned that some girls would just follow you and ask for sanitary towels. How bad was the situation?
It was extremely bad. Like Kenya has a couple of policies. Even the latest one in 2019, the menstrual and hygiene and management policy, the first standalone policy of its kind. But these policies have not
been implemented,
borne any fruits, have not taken any action. So they're just a couple of other documents, lying somewhere there.
Sitting pretty.
So the situation is really bad on the ground. And then we realized, it's not only about provision of sanitary products, but also the education bit.
On how to use them.
The change of the attitudes and mentalities in the communities. So we created a structure in that we have the clubs in the schools, the hashtag in Instagram or any other social, the DMHM clubs, where we work in the schools, but also with the communities. Because in the community we have these people are called the gatekeepers. They might be the chiefs, they might be the elders, and also the moms and the caregivers of these kids. So when they come to school and you teach them how to take care of the menses, what menstruation means, what is good or what is wrong about what they hear out there about periods, and then they go home, there's this cultural gap between them and their caregivers, or maybe even the chiefs in the community. So like it goes back to rivers. So you have to tackle the roots first. So we ensure that we also engage with the community. And the light bulb moment was in 2020.
Tell us about that.
When the schools were closed. And we were like, what do we do about this? I remember it was a Friday, and the following week Monday, we had planned already to go to, like, all activities were planned. So we had to meet and reorganize ourselves, and we decided to go to a household to household campaign, hashtag periods don't pause for pandemics KE. That's the hashtag we used for that campaign. And we made it through 23 villages in the whole of Laikipia County, and reached over 4,000 girls.
Did you see that there was a regress in some of the progress that you had made? So looking at from the time you have been working, then the pandemic came, then the hashtag, you know, periods don't stop with the pandemic. Did you see there was a regress in the progress you had made?
Yeah, there was a disruption because first these girls are not able to access the facilities, the private facilities, even though it's not in the school. You know, there's some schools have bushes. They can always use bushes because, again, you find a school has 2 toilets. The population is like 700 and something. So there's no way the sanitation can balance with the girls and boys in the school. And also the boys missing out on these sessions. But this was a blessing in disguise because coming into one homestead, we find a brother, a girl, maybe their grandmother, because most of the mothers, after giving birth to them, they go to the nearest towns to hustle, maybe for house help jobs, so that they can send the money back home.
The kids are left with the grandparents?
Yeah, so they're left, most of them, with the grandparents.
Okay.
Yeah, so in such a setup, then you have the opportunity to speak to all of them one-on-one in one space. So this is what has made the last 1.5 years really a success for us, because we have grown also in the way we think. Attitudes and all these stereotypes have been changed. We have 23 chiefs who are our friends right now and advocate for our work. And this is what we mean by, you know, grassroots change, that you go where the issue is and really tackle it from the root cause. So when you do this bit of education, then sanitary products actually become a bonus.
And that brings me to now the sexual health and reproductive rights of these children, as well as those that are caring for them, because we live in a time where children are abused and they don't know that they have been sexually abused, their rights have been violated. How has that also, how have you guys looked to loop that in and tell them this is right, and if this happens, you're supposed to do this and this and this to get justice, and in a way that they understand?
So during this period, we met so many teenage mothers, and I know we'll talk about later, but that is what actually inspired us to start the Teenage Mothers program, because most of them either are in concert with the partner who impregnated them or were abused. And in normal situations, you'll find even the grandmothers hiding these girls. Like maybe Chief Amewambia, over there's a lady who is 10 years and she's pregnant. So you're like, okay, let's go and see how we're going to report to the relevant authorities. When you go there, the girl has already been hidden. So you cannot tackle a case that's not existing anymore. So after making them aware of this program for teenage mothers, then they slowly started speaking out about issues of abuse, about issues of girls who are pregnant and who need psychosocial support. And you know, the only way to break these teenage pregnancies, I think the very right way is to empower them economically, because poverty is like the biggest role player right now in teenage pregnancies. And when they're empowered economically, then their livelihoods and that of their children
change,
blooms, and they can even get into vocational trainings, because you find most of them don't want to go back to complete their studies, but they can make their lives better and that of their children.
Now that brings me to the other aspect that you guys focus on, and these are life skills that will actually empower them to be able to be economically independent. What are some of them that you are particular to ensure that this is one of the things that we must teach them to help them get to that space where they're independent?
So we currently have a partner who's training them on reusable sanitary towels. And that does not mean they all have to be tailors. They can learn that skill and value add to like beadwork. Beadwork, like the shanga you're wearing right now.
Well, this one here, director, he hapa. You'll
find that the beadwork can be incorporated into our modern attires, and the value of that cloth or outfit even goes higher, and that is a source of income for them. We also have volunteers who come in with nutrition skills. Also, some of the children have disabilities and they're hidden so often. We have volunteers who come in to do occupational therapies, what are they called? Like all the muscles therapies for them. And this is also an awareness to them not to hide their children who have any form of disabilities. And this is now where we talk about the Dreams Center for Teenage Mothers, because with this center that we are currently fundraising for, we'll be able to have so much of these skills trained at one central place, and have people who like they can even give them startup money, capital for their businesses, or even accelerate their businesses even, you know, to a better level.
Yes.
And on the life skills, we have the Youth Expo. We had the very first one this year with the name the Dreams Youth Expo.
Yes.
On the International Youth Day, which ran for 2 days. That was a platform for young people to come and showcase what they do and interact with market experts and have people know more about their products. So the life skills initiative for Dream Dreams has taken a whole independent model of its own because of the Dreams Youth Expo and now the Dream Center for Teenage Mothers.
Now, all this that you are doing still is within the cultural grip. We are in a country that is cultural, in a continent that is cultural, and also looking at the area in which that you operate in, culture still seems to be a very big, something that has a strong grip. How are you able to work around all these things and also remember that they value their culture, they value their traditions, and some of the things that they do is because they are tied to their culture?
A central place, a meeting point of culture and the education that we're trying to bring on board. That means you have to be very conversant to the community and have allies from the community, like we mentioned earlier about the gatekeepers. So when we're talking about practices like FGM, or you know, like forcing girls to go into a marriage that they do not want, or it's not even the right time for these girls to get married, then you have a chief on board, you have the caregivers and the guardians on board, so it becomes easy for you to communicate your message. And I truly appreciate the journey that Dream Dreams has taken for all those years from 2016 when we registered, but we took a break kind of because you know, after university, people getting married, getting different jobs,
life happened.
Yes. But then in 2019 is what we call like our moment of obligation, when we really had to stand up and fill this gap for our community. And when you come back, they remember you from what you've been doing, and you're no longer a stranger. Like, and you make them own the project because you are it's like you're amplifying their voice, but the project belongs to the community. So this is for their good even more than it is our good. Yes.
So let's talk a bit about those projects, and you know, we've just mentioned them very briefly, and the first one that you talked about was Periods Don't Stop for the Pandemic, and I think we've gotten the gist of that. But let's talk about the Teen Mothers Program. How did you go about it, practically speaking? Because just from what you're saying, some of these children are hidden. When the caregivers discover they're pregnant, they're hidden. So even getting to them, access to them becomes a problem.
Yes, so during the campaign for Periods Don't Pause for Pandemics, going into this household, you know, it was so easy to map out the homes and the girls who are pregnant already at that time. And we also have a couple of young people who work with in these villages, so they're always like constant call and in communication with what is really happening. So we took the first cohort of 23 of them to train, equip them on even menstrual health first, reproductive health, their sexual and health rights, because you find that they do not even understand these rights. And unfortunately, in some community setup, you find that intentionally they are made not to understand their rights, so that if you don't know anything, then you'll not, if I don't know this is my right, then how is it my right? So the education bit and getting volunteers to come in to train them on different things like tailoring, nutrition, beadwork. Then the latest project that we did was dental healthcare with the British Army, and 50 of them came. So we were like, okay, where have you all been? You know, so that was the inspiring moment, that first we're trying, the stigma rate on teenage mothers has gone down for the area that we work with now with the 23, meaning if the 23 have pursued the others to be like the total number to be 50, then there is progress, because again there is a lot of suicide rates for the teenage mothers because of the stigma that is in the community. Yes, so for us seeing a number of 50 was an awesome moment for us.
And that actually, just from before we got on air, there was the feature that was running here about teen pregnancies, and CS for Interior was actually saying, as per the government, these young girls are supposed to go back to school after 6 months. Is this something that you feel is practical given what you have seen and what you are doing, and looking at the rights of these young mothers and the children that they now have?
If the latest statistics from the Global Childhood Kenya, they state that out of every 1,000 births, 80 of these births are from teenage mothers, and these are only the births that are already on record. So what about those who gave birth in out of the hospital setup? So it's easier said than done. Like, you come back after 6 months, but remember, on this 6 months period, so much has happened at home.
So much.
My Maybe goodness. There was even another baby from your sister who's been left home, and now you're the caregiver of the both. Again, there's stigma around them going back to school. In this school setup, how is it? How do we manage having a young mom coming to school to continue with her education with other girls who are
age mates
and not even pregnant, like they have made all the right choices in life, and for her, she feels like she's gone a little down from where she was. So I don't think it's as practical as it sounds, but I appreciate journeys and processes, and I know when you have the correct measures, like having, let's say, maybe you're in class and your milk bank is already pressing you. Maybe they don't have the bottles or the
luxury of a breast
tools.
Pump.
Exactly. There are no such facilities in schools. So how will that work? So
the implementation bit is where we are
there's a lot of planning that needs to be done, because you cannot say after every break she'll go home. How far is her home to breastfeed, then come back to school? So I think sometimes our leaders just speak without really taking note of all these small processes, even our workplaces. I remember when, after giving birth to my daughter and I just reported to work, the milk was just it was horrible. It was such a horrible experience because I had a lot of milk, no matter how much I pumped. In fact, the more I pumped, the more supply I got. And that is on our normal workstations. What about these underserved girls?
It only gets worse for them.
So I need, with better planning and also better education for these other girls who will feel like now they've made the right choices in life, and you're a failure, quote unquote, because you already give birth, you come into school. Like, it sounds like something that even should not be talked about, but with the right measures in place, I think everything is possible with the right planning.
Everything is possible with the right planning. I like that. Now let's come to the other project, Road Trip for a Cause. What was that all about? Tell us about that.
Wow. So I've talked a lot about volunteers because our work, in our work, we promote volunteerism a lot. Why? Because for example, like Jain, you're a journalist, and maybe much of your work revolves around journalism, and you'd want to go out there, out of your workspace, out of the keyboard space, and really experience what goes on at the grassroots. So Road Trip for a Cause gives you that opportunity to travel, not only for enjoyment but also for a cause, and it's a social economic empowering project because the communities that we map out are communities we've worked with before. And for example, like the previous one on the 9th and 10th of October, during the International Day of the Girl, we bought close to 10 goods from one village. That is already economic empowerment for them. So everything that you use for the campaign, for all the meals, are locally sourced. So the community, all the monies that you use is left within the community, and the social aspects comes in when people come to volunteer and engage with their boys and girls in the community. In even some other setups, like in March, we had the Morans, the guys play soccer tournaments, and the guys from the Road Trip for a Cause engaged with them. I mean, it's a concept that has really overdone us, but we really appreciate it because it gives young people an opportunity
yes,
to really see the world out there, because sometimes you check on what people are saying on Twitter, let's say if it's a talk on menstrual health, and you're like, you guys should really get out of your comfort zone and go to the grassroots and see for yourself what is really happening. And just by the mere fact of you adding your voice to this cause, trust you me, when you get back home, you'll feel so fulfilled, you know. Yeah.
Road trip work course. I like that. And now that we're at that point, you know, you mentioned partnerships, and this is where that comes in, because it's open to whoever feels they can contribute to the cause, and in whatever shape, manner or form that is relevant to what you're doing. So where you currently stand, what are the forms of assistance that you feel we need this, we need this, we need this professions, we need this materials, we need this funds to be able to move forward with what you're doing, so that in case someone is watching us and they want to contribute to the cause?
Absolutely. So our call to action is we are currently fundraising to build a dream center for teenage mothers. This means that this center first will be a very, you know, very accommodative space for vocational training for these teenage mothers. And when they are not there, because they also have to do their own hustles, then we'll have young people come in and get trained on the same skill sets, from ICT to any other profession out there, of which you have like a pool of volunteers who really want to give their time. What is lacking is the space. So all my my social media handles from Instagram, Facebook have the link, because it's a link that accepts also M-Pesa and any other form of donation, any other form of currency. And even Drain Dreams Initiative has the same link from Giving Way, where you can just tap into the link, read about the project, then down there you can now donate. Also, donations can come in form of materials. Maybe somebody wants to donate like 10 bags of cement, then there's a contact on all our pages where they can contact us directly and just voice out on what they really want to donate. We also appreciate people's time, people who volunteer their skills and time to our work. We are about to start an inclusion part of menstrual health, where we'll be training girls and women living with disabilities. One thing for sure is, whenever we are doing a course, we always put on our Instagram stories, so people should feel free to contact us at any given time when they see any posts that has come up of something that they have an interest in, or maybe it's even their area of profession and they would want to volunteer with us. We really appreciate it. It goes a long way.
All right. Now, also, as we draw closer to the close of this conversation, you are working in a space where you're familiar with, and of course the authorities come into play. How are you just trying to also work with the county government, the police, the chiefs there, the elders, if there are for that matter, to just make sure that they're also aware of what you're doing, and especially the county government, given the devolution served to our good when it comes to reaching every single person, and especially where there's a cause for concern?
So first of all, First Lady, Her Excellency Maria, is a very good friend, and also you know, an unconditional supporter for Drain Dreams Initiative, because she has seen personally me like come from very far to where I am right now. The growth. And, exactly. And I think that is something she's really proud of. And with her, then we have the county government support. And for example, like for the Dreams Youth Expo, we had almost all departments from the county government come to exhibit. There was an exhibition fee, 2,500 Kenya shillings per day to sustain the project, and they really signed up. And I also want to appreciate the Director for Innovation, Winnie Mwangi. She is a gem, because during that time she really helped us mobilize from her industry and also from the county government also side wing. Point of standing. And at the grassroots we work with chiefs closely, because even at this point in time they are with us in, you know, finding this location. We actually had a meeting yesterday, what we call barazas. We had one yesterday with them, because like I mentioned earlier, we are the type of people who, our projects are community centered. We work for the community. So at any given time when you want to set up a project, then they have the first voice to the project. Yesterday we had a very successful baraza on the agenda was the upcoming Center for Teenage Mothers. And like it's something that we instilled in ourselves from very young, that you need support for from all these leaders, and also their opinions sometimes, because we might be at the policy level, like we have an accountability think tank that we work with on matters reproductive health, that has all 16 organizations on reproductive health. So this is on policy level, but you need also people who are the policy makers themselves,
opinion shapers, for that matter. Now, as we close, here's your camera. You can just go ahead and talk to the young girls who are in a situation that you have mentioned or familiar to it, or know someone for that matter. And anyone who's watching us today, what would be your take home for them from this whole conversation that we have had about Drawing Dreams Initiative?
Wow, so
take your time. Shine.
To any young girl, I would like to take a reflection to some years back and put myself in your shoes. Really trust the process, and it's okay to fail. Sometimes, especially in this era of digital media, social media, there's this whole image portrayed out there of success, but it is okay to fail. Take your time, enjoy the process, but make right decisions, intentional decisions, because energies attract. If your goal is to attain something, then with the right people around you and the right energies, then your stars will align. And for Drawing Dreams Initiative, follow us on our social media platforms. We appreciate volunteerism, we appreciate opinion makers, we appreciate policy makers, and we want to create a world where every adolescent, young girl and boy can freely exist, and with dignity. Because again, with dignity, our lives feel diminished. So we really need to emphasize on dignity and realize our fullest potential even as we thrive.
Siongezi. Nothing more. Grace Wanene, founder and team lead at Drawing Dreams Initiative. You can remind us the social handles just once more so that our viewers can also be sure to have the right handles and follow.
So Wanene Grace. In all of them, even LinkedIn, it's Wanene Grace.
There you go.
Yeah.
So if you want to have this conversation further with her, you can be able to reach her via at Wanene Grace across all the socials, and from there you'll be able to engage and move forward to Jengenchi. That brings us to a close of Women at the Forefront. But we are not done with Good Morning Kenya. Do stay with us. We have much more lined up for you. Yay! Wow.